Hello, and welcome to a primer on learning through service. In this presentation, I want to give you an idea of what learning through service is, and I also want to give you an idea why you might want to do it. I'll emphasize how LTS in engineering is different from other forms of community engagement, and I'll conclude with some best practices, tips for making LTS a reality in any engineering course. Eiler and Giles offer the following definition: a form of experiential education where learning occurs through a cycle of action and reflection as students seek to achieve real objectives for the community and deeper understanding and skills for themselves. In the process, students link personal and social development with academic and cognitive development. This experience enhances understanding, and understanding leads to more effective action. Sounds like we're trying to accomplish a lot, and truthfully we are. As we'll see, LTS actually adds an entirely new dimension to teaching a technical course. But before we get to that, it's helpful to aid our definition of LTS by breaking it down into four major components. The first of which is academic rigor. Here we mean to emphasize the fact that we are still attempting to provide knowledge and skills about a particular subject. Next, community partnership is the second basic feature. Partnership can mean varying levels of student engagement, but more on this later. Reflection is the primary vehicle for which students should develop both cognitive and affective domain skills. Since LTS involves a non-technical dimension, reflection is especially suited to aid students in technical knowledge retention, but also in valuing their community impact. And finally, the last component of LTS is feedback or evaluation for the students. This component is necessarily part of the previous three, and where feedback should follow from student reflection, their academic goals, and their learning objectives from the affective social domain. Of course, to quote Eiler once again, service combined with learning adds value to each and transforms both. This can mean many things, but in the context of engineering, it means that we're adding course goals that are non-traditional for technical courses. What are these goals? Foster connectedness beyond the classroom. We want to make the students feel included in their community, not just remaining in their academic bubble. Motivate the students to find intrinsic meaning in their technical work. Think of self-determination theory here. Promote interdisciplinary problem solving. Through LTS, students will need to interact with both technical and non-technical stakeholders, a skill that is beneficial for technical professional careers as well as for community engagement. And finally, exposure to social diversity and the importance of solidarity. Essentially, all these aspects form a second dimension to the already established technical dimension of engineering learning. This makes LTS in engineering unique from both non-engineering LTS and traditional engineering courses. Recall that LTS can be thought of as adding an extra dimension to the engineering course. The following graphic shows these two dimensions as technical learning goals on the horizontal axis and social cultural learning goals on the vertical axis. We can also think in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, where technical learning skills fall under the cognitive domain, while social skills fall under the affective domain. This distinction makes clear the need for learning objectives that span both dimensions. By falling into one of the numbered quadrants over the other, we are essentially changing the nature of the LTS experience. Each quadrant is defined here. With starting in quadrant 1 in the lower left, we note the absence of any learning goals. Leads to an experience that is similar to something that you would do to, say, pay off a traffic violation. In quadrant 2, we might have a non-technical LTS course with learning objectives wholly aligned in the affective domain. In quadrant 3, we have a traditional engineering course with no social cultural learning outcomes. And in quadrant 4, we have a true LTS engineering course that has aspects of both dimensions and its learning goals. The goal of the instructor in this case is to push the students as far as possible along each dimension. This is achieved in detail by first and foremost establishing rigorous technical and non-technical learning objectives for the students, assigning substantial deliverables to the students, having a method for assessment that is aligned with those learning objectives, and ensuring civic outcomes that are more than just an experience to be forgotten. Engineering asks more of both the instructors and the students. Luckily, there are many guides available to assist instructors in tackling the extra dimensions added by LTS. Remain faithful to the technical goals. Plan the LTS course in a way that maximizes synergy between the community and those academic goals. Prepare your students for working in teams, in groups, and in active settings that will aid in their community service. Don't simply dump your students into a community or vice versa. Have a plan for sustained interaction. Ensure the community is involved and taking a stake in your students' efforts. And finally, integrate your evaluation method through techniques such as reflective learning or other tangible deliverables. However, take heed to remain flexible as students have more autonomy in their work compared to traditional engineering courses.